So, Gene,
Is it working?
it's working. And I was just telling you I'm reading that What If series, and I got bad news.
Hmm.
Loki escaped from the tree that Odin put him in, and he wasn't allowed to leave until somebody shed a tear for him. And on a technicality, he got a leaf from the tree to poke some dude in the eye.
What are you talking about?
Loki's bad news. That's what I'm saying.
He is bad news.
Better watch that
That's
guy.
his job. Hmm. Well,
I don't know, man. Is the cold open still working?
I don't know.
You like it?
I mean, it's a thing.
It used to be that you would just hit record, and now we like talk for 10 minutes, and we go, "Oh shit, we should do the show."
Yeah, we should just hit record and let it go.
Or
Or,
we could get really
hmm,
non-alcoholic.
yeah, let's keep the podcast a bit longer.
Yeah. Won't you stay a little bit longer,
Yeah.
Gene? So we did that 4 episode series.
Was it 4? I thought it was like 10.
It felt like 25
Just kidding.
for the listener.
Yes, it's
But
all
we
right,
did
man.
that on the Engine Works story, and that was amazing. Thanks again to Hans for suggesting that.
Hans.
And I will say it's proven to be popular. It's like our out of the gate the fastest or most listened to podcast. It's the exact same speed as the other podcasts.
Yeah.
But I have something I want to talk about. Something
Okay.
that I've never fully understood that matters to me. I want to understand the story of Converge.
Mm.
Like I know bits and pieces of it.
Okay.
Um, I know the dark, sordid side of Converge. I was there.
Mm.
It wasn't that dark. It was a little sordid, but I want to understand like the origin story. Like, how did Converge come to be? I was there during the height of it, and just like we did with Engine, kind of see where did it taper off? Like, what happened
Okay.
there? So,
Sure.
what brought Converge to life? Like, what were you doing? I mean, you were running a shop. You had some other people. Why did you say we should put on an event, or did you?
Uh, wow. I haven't actually thought about that in a while, even though we should get like 8 minutes out of this show. It'd be awesome. Um, no, it was a mixture of I'd been involved with AIGA. Went. That's what I got my degree in was illustration design, and so I was involved with AIGA, and became the president of AIGA. Don't know why the hell I did that. Still don't. Yeah, whatever. It's not as big a deal as you think it is.
Now,
Um,
President National or
no,
President?
just the state,
Okay, okay.
South Carolina. And so, the thing that I enjoyed out of that was like the meetups, like getting together with all the people and sharing information. And that's When was that? I don't even remember what year that would
Mid
be.
2000s, maybe.
Yeah, somewhere in there. 2005, 6, somewhere in there. I don't know. A long time ago, over 10 years ago. And I really enjoyed getting together and sharing information and stuff. And right around that same time, and we sort of trailed a lot of this in the discussion about Engine. It was a very cool time to be sort of in the industry
Yeah.
because it was a lot of sharing. There was, you remember these things called blogs when people used to have those? Where they would
We
write,
still do.
where they would write things.
Yeah, and they were good things.
Yeah, it was a lot of them.
You could build your career on these things.
Yeah. So I was I got into that like a lot. And we started right around the time, I think internationally, something called Refresh started, if you remember those.
Garrett Diamond.
Yeah. So that's right. I was trying to remember his name when we were talking. So we started a Columbia chapter of that. And so I was sort of hitting Refresh and AIGA like every other week, like here locally. And then we realized, there are these things in other states and other cities. So we would venture to those and meet people. And around that same time, there was a an event here, homegrown, called you know, like everything else in the state, it's Palmetto something. I'm sure Florida probably has like Gator something, or I don't know, Orange
Flamingos.
something.
It's
Yeah,
always
whatever.
flamingos, man. Yeah.
But here it's Palmetto. So it's the Palmetto Open Source Group Conference. Yeah, it's like everything's Palmetto
All
here.
you think about palmetto is bug, and that is not
Yeah,
good. Those are
yeah.
some gross things.
I think they're referencing the tree, but
I know, but you say palmetto, I think bug.
so
Continue.
that guy he did that event, and it was he did it at the University of South Carolina Engineering Department, and he had
Okay.
like 8 speakers or whatever, and he was able to get a couple hundred people to come here from like the Southeast region, and I just went to it. It was free. I
Right.
just went to it, and I thought it was the coolest thing, like that all these people kind of came together to, and it was open source, so it was all like free information. And I just thought it was really cool. I just thought it was neat. Everybody pitched in, and that's how we started it. We were originally ConvergeSE,
Yeah, I remember
South
that.
Carolina, and we were a nonprofit when we first started. It was me,
Okay.
the POSCON person, Palmetto open source person, and 2 other people who did other types of. There was like a designer person,
Hmm.
and then a web front end person that was sort of doing the refresh stuff, and then there was me, and we all got together and wanted to put this thing together. And so the idea was that we would have whoever was part of the group would get a speaker and bring them in. And so we'd have this day of like, 5 or 6 speakers that represented all the different aspects of the industry. And that's why we called it Converge. That's where the name came from. And so we did that, and it was fun, but it was a lot of work. And all of those guys promptly quit. They were like,
That's the thing. We talked about that. You put on an
yeah,
event, it's a ton of work.
yeah, a ton of
So,
work. So they quit.
okay.
And I
And
was like,
so they quit, and you're still doing AIGA and refresh at this time?
yes, yeah, yeah,
And so this is a third thing.
yeah.
And what was the time period between doing that with everybody when they quit and doing the next Converge?
We did that event, like a May. Like
Okay.
during early summer. The students were gone, so we had kind of run of this engineering department's big. It was like a auditorium where they had classes or whatever.
Okay.
It's like the typical college class where they'd have like 200 students in the class. One of those big old auditoriums.
Yeah.
And we like one of the people in the group was a grad student, so he just had the key. so we just used it.
So you kept costs down.
Yeah. We brought in like sandwiches from Chick-fil-A or whatever, for everybody. It's Subway, actually.
Oh, there you go. Both are sponsors of this show, by the
Yeah.
way. Neither one.
That was the very first one, and I would say it was a success because everybody really liked it. And
That's one measure of success for sure.
they
Did
didn't
people
like it.
dig
I
it?
mean, they didn't want to do it anymore. The original group, they didn't want to do it.
Hmm.
They all were like, "I'm out." A couple of them got other jobs and moved to other states or whatever. So that was May, and then so somewhere around fall, I was just like, should I do it again? What should we do? So I did it again the next year. It was me and a couple of the guys I work with, Jay and Gio he wasn't working with
Oh,
us
okay.
yet. It was really just Jay, and then another guy who worked at a web shop across town kind of pitched in, but it was still sort of like my thing that I wanted to
Got
do.
you. So in the fall, you decided to do it again, but you didn't go again until the following year.
Yeah, the following summer. Yeah, yeah. So I
Okay.
gave myself 6 months or so to plan it, um, and so what I did then is it was still called ConvergeSE, and I wanted to get somebody from all the different areas of South Carolina. I wanted to make like a South Carolina community event for everybody that worked in the industry. So I had a couple of
Okay.
developers, a couple of designers, an agency person, a copywriter, like a creative director, and then a web creative person. And we just built the day around that. And that was the second year. And that's sort of like when it started to take shape. And
Okay.
I sort of got my feet wet really in terms of how to produce an event, how to like make something worth a shit, how to build a budget for it and get sponsors because I wanted to do a little bit more with it. And so that's that. So that was that. I would say that's the second year. The first year of it, probably how you would know it would be today.
Hmm.
The first one was very like, what are those word camp or what were those
Yeah,
things?
yeah, bar
Bar
camps.
camps, word camps. Those were kind of happening at the same time. So the very first year was sort of like in that vein, of a
Got you. Just everybody
like a
come together. We're gonna
yeah,
we'll have a
yeah.
couple of speakers, but we're just gonna kind of hang out.
Mhm.
So when do you switch from SC to SE? When do you
That
make
third year.
that
That third
third year you decide, okay, you know what? Let's make this regional. Now,
yes.
what was the thinking behind that?
Speakers. So, just people I wanted. So, I realized through traveling to the refresh stuff, and you put on an event and you meet people like that between doing the very first year and the second year, I went to Future Web Design, a couple of those. If you're old school, you'll remember
Hmm.
those. It is
Carsonified,
yeah,
Ryan Carson.
Carsonified, and now it's they don't do events anymore. But what is the teaching platform?
Treehouse.
Yeah, Treehouse. You'll know them as that. Anyway, went to a couple of those. Went to Front End Design Conf with Dan Denny
Hmm.
um, down in St.
St.
Pete.
Pete. Yep.
Went to another one, and I'm having trouble remembering. Anyway, um, so I was like, wow, you can, that's what I want it to be like that. Where those were like, like future web design was like the whole world. Um,
Oh, it felt huge.
yeah, and front end conf really did too.
Yeah.
Dan did an amazing job of like bringing in speakers from everywhere and making it, um, feel bigger. It was the industry. It wasn't just like, hey, it's your little city. So I wanted to do that. So, and I realized, and through traveling through Refresh, that wow, these people that I read their blogs and their books, and I want to meet them and hang out with them. I was like, if I could trick them into coming here,
That's how you got me. You
then
tricked me. You bastard.
I could like be friends with these people, and that would just be cool. And so that's how the second year we had some amazing people that second year. Talk about some amazing stuff. In fact, and I'm so old I can't even remember. It wasn't Ethan Marcotte. I should have been better prepared.
No, you're good.
Anyway, what was her name? Do you remember her name? She was a speaker who
You're
was
gonna have to give
talking
me a
about.
little more.
I, I'll I will
I
look
wasn't
it up
there the
and put it
second
in
year.
the notes. Anyway, we had her Zoe Gillenwater. God,
Oh, Zoe. Yep, yep.
Zoe Gillenwater. She came and was talking about the future of HTML and CSS and how we're going to do these liquid designs and we're going to use um, images that are liquid as well, and then we're going to do these things. There's these things called media queries and how we can target actual screens. And if we put these three things together, like it could change how we do stuff. And we were like, whoa, what is that? And then she's like showing us how to do it, and then so everybody's kind of like talking about that shit from
Yeah,
her talk and stuff. And then 9 months later, Ethan Marcotte's like, we're gonna do responsive web design, and they all come together, and it changed the industry. So
yeah.
it was like being on this wave of like stuff that changed, and we were able to be a part of that, and it just hooked me.
Well, I just want to say for a minute, as somebody who ended up part of the Converge family, uh, I can totally see with Dan and what he had going on at front end. And I'll say this to the end of time. Dan Denny, just watching the way he and Sherry did things,
Hmm.
like changed the way that I wanted things to be because it just
Same here.
felt so warm and it felt inclusive and
Hmm.
everything. Yeah, it was on a budget, but you didn't care because it was a reunion.
That's right.
It wasn't like you were there to be pampered,
That's right.
right? Even though I will say that chocolate covered bacon in the green room is pretty
Yeah.
amazing. But then, and nothing against Carsonifying what they have with future web design. It was a totally different concept.
Hmm.
Um, wasn't that kind of reunion. It wasn't that kind of thing. It was much more of a big event. So you learn
Right.
from that,
Right.
oh, you sign a contract to be a
Hmm.
speaker?
Hmm.
Oh, this has to be a certain amount of original material because they're trying to go for this. So you learn a lot on that side too.
Hmm.
It's not that same thing. So then Converge, to me, seemed like, and I think I came in the third year
You
because
were
you had contacted me because of the blog.
your third year.
You're reading our
Yep.
blog, but you really kind of harnessed a little of both because you had that warm feeling that you scaled,
Hmm.
right? So talk a little bit about the first time. So the second year, were you also in the university setting?
Same thing.
So that third year, you moved to more of a theater, right?
That's right. That's right.
So what makes you go, we're going big?
So it was a direct result of what you just said. It was getting to know Dan, um, going to some more of the bigger, you know, world class events. I mean, none of the events were really world class. You know what I mean? They were all homegrown mom
Hmm.
and pops, just different approaches and scales. So it was learning from those two, and then realizing, not really thinking about, oh, this is like a product or a thing we can make money with, but realizing that we have to treat it with that respect and we have to do that work with it, and we could build something that eventually could maybe
Hmm.
become that. And so it was time to go to work and do it, like run it as a project through our company. And at that point, Gio had started working with us and stuff, and so we had a little bit of juice because he's incredibly, I mean, world class, honestly, creative individual.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and it really gave us some juice to do some really fun branding stuff and push the envelope with what we can make it look like and feel like, and just try to do some wild and crazy stuff. But at the same time, have that professional undertone, like mom and pop with a good professional undertone is what I was going for. And so we knew, like, we have to get a real venue. We have to put it somewhere nice, somewhere sort of that would stack up, anywhere else. And we just luckily happened to have, it was still the university, but they had just built like a technical
Amphitheater.
facility. Yeah, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
for people like us. And I got into that through the refresh and the AIJ, and I got to know them. And we just rented that out and put it in there, and had, we went crazy. We just had
Yeah.
workshops, and that's where I met you. I was just
Yeah.
reaching out to speakers, like, I want to try different tracks and different things and see what we can do, and you know invited you.
I remember I don't know if this was that year, but I remember giving a workshop on
That was that first year.
your
Yeah, yeah.
money or your life, where it was all about how you could have balance and you could do all these things. And a guy upstairs was handing out free beer.
Mhm.
And I remember looking at everybody in my room. I probably had like 30 people in a room that could, seat 60 or whatever. And I said, do y'all just want to go upstairs and get beer? Because I'm down with that. I mean, I'm not getting paid for this. Let's
Yeah,
just go.
yeah.
And it was one of those things where everybody was like, no, no, we want to hear this. And I was like,
Mhm.
damn it.
I
I
know. I wanted to
really
hear.
wanted to go
Could you
upstairs.
go get me the beer?
Could you get me a beer? You know what? I remember walking in, one of the first things, and this was when it was all in one area. Like the workshops were down one hall, and then there was the
Right,
theater, and there was all this kind of stuff.
right. That was important to us.
You had FreshBooks and Harvest as sponsors,
Hmm.
and they were both on the same table
Hmm.
with with bagels and coffee.
Hmm.
I remember I looked at you. I said, "Who do I thank for the bagels, and who do I thank for the coffee?
That's right.
Because I
That's
don't want
right.
to piss off either one."
That's right.
And it was just so funny to me because
Yeah.
I did not realize that. I mean, first of all, outside of South by Southwest, which was a big thing at the time, right? Like we see that, and
Mhm.
you're like, holy crap. I didn't really think about sponsorship. So how in that third year do those people become sponsors?
There's no real magic to it other than I was friends with these people. Like, we
Okay.
talked to them. We used their products. They believed in us. We believed in them. Um, I think,
So
you
Mike
know,
and Danny, you knew them?
from Harvest. Yeah, we knew Peldy from FreshBooks.
Okay, okay.
I think he sold it by now, but
No, Mike still owns it.
oh, does he? Oh, we knew
Yeah.
Peldy. We knew Peldy.
Okay, cool.
Um, and
But
just
then
like
Danny at Harvest, and so you knew them,
And so,
and
like Sticker Mule,
yeah.
I'd met Tony, and
Okay.
he was just trying to, Anthony, however you might know him, and
Right.
he was just trying to get it off the ground. And where I was like, look, man, you know, we're doing this event, and I think all these people, they're like designers and stuff. I think all these people they'd like to know who you are, because they hate stickers from wherever. He was like, well, how about I just print a bunch of stickers for you? I was like, cool. What you should do on the back is just put your logo or whatever.
Yeah.
So he started doing
And
that.
still, I don't know
And
that
then,
they still do it, but that was the way they would get into everything.
mhm, mhm.
That was the beginning for them as well. That's
So
pretty
it was
cool.
it was like at the beginning of working,
Hmm.
and like Mailchimp was new. They were, believe it or not, they were small,
Oh, yeah. They were
and
tiny.
there was like 20 of them. And
Yeah.
I had met Ben at a UIXE or whatever the hell it was called.
Ben
Um,
Chestnut. Yep.
Ben at like a
And they were still Rocket Media at the time, or
yeah, they were. It
Rocket
was like a
whatever.
UX. It was like a UX seminar. I sat next to him, and like that's
Yeah.
back in the day, man. That's how it was. It's hard to remember that all these companies were like 10 people or whatever.
Yeah.
Then now they're like multi-million, billion-dollar corporations or whatever.
I remember giving a
Um,
lunch and learn at MailChimp, and I walked in, and they were doing grilled cheese out of a truck and some stuff in the back. And I remember looking, going, "Where is everybody?" And they're like, "Oh, this is everybody." I was like, "Oh my
yeah,
God."
yeah. But that's how it was, and so that's how you get Harvest and FreshBooks at the same thing because I feel
Yeah.
like they wanted to be there.
They wanted to be there. Now, who else? Were there any other sponsors that third year? I remember those two.
Mailchimp.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
sorry. I'm sure there was.
no, didn't I thought now this is something I think you learned from, I learned from. I thought in that third year you had some sponsor that got up to give a pitch.
We did.
I remember that because I was sitting in the audience going, "Oh, this isn't going over
Yeah,
very
yeah,
well."
yeah, yeah. I forget who that was,
Yeah.
and I'm not doing that just for the sake of the video. I honestly don't remember.
No, no, no worries. I
But
don't remember either.
if
It was
you're if
some sort of
you're
a SaaS product.
yeah, if you're a evangelist, remember that. We don't remember
You're
who the
hitting
hell
your
you are.
desk. You're
We
hitting your
remember
desk.
the coffee sponsor more than
I know.
you who tried to sell your shit on stage.
For everybody listening to this episode and you keep hearing this ding, it's like Gene's getting animated and he keeps hitting his desk
I'm
every
sorry.
time. And
Sorry.
it's yeah, I had to let you know. So you go through that third year, and how many people were there? It felt like a few hundred. Was it a
There's a
couple hundred?
couple hundred, about 300 people, maybe 250,
Yeah. And
somewhere in
so
there.
I remember I showed up to speak there. I really hadn't spoken many places. I was part of this Adobe
That's
tour that
not what
went
you told
around.
me.
Oh, well,
I'm just
okay.
kidding.
Did I? Well, I remember we were talking, and I was just like, okay, I don't know what I'll talk about, but okay. But yeah, no, I was excited. I remember going in and seeing everybody, and I remember just running down the front row, high fiving everybody
Mhm.
with no idea, like it was the fucking Price is Right or something. But I was having so much fun.
Yeah,
So that
that was the
that
vibe, man.
that year kind of set the tone for the trajectory, huh?
Yes, it did. And from there, we started getting a little crazy with the website for the event was always an event for us in and of
Right.
itself. We spent a lot of time on those things, and we won a lot of awards for those websites, and that was a direct result of Geo and Jay.
Oh,
Even though they were like terrible to work together, like they fought and argued, they made some really good shit, and I think it's some of the more memorable stuff if you're from around that time. So
just to
we
say, I think it elevated a little bit
yeah.
because now I wasn't there the first 2 years, but that third year, I remember walking in and seeing, was it a dragon illustration? There was something in that third year. I just remember seeing it going,
Yeah,
whoa.
yeah, it was a Tyrannosaurus Rex
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah, for sure.
missiles and shit. It was just the
Yeah,
goofiest
it was
stuff.
just craziness. But you know what? So was the event. It was like, it was just such a great vibe. So you get through that third year, you get past it. I'm just curious, are you making any money? Are you just covering? Because the time commitment has gotten crazy, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
at that point, it was a labor of love, and I'll
Yeah.
say until the end, it kind of was. Um, we didn't really make. I mean, not really, not really.
You look at the numbers and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
wow. But then you look at the time and it's not even, I'll say this as somebody who does events, it's not even um, the time, it's the life energy. It
yeah.
just demands so much of you and the stress is so
I will
crazy.
say I never once paid my own money for anything. It always made its own thing. Um,
Right. You didn't have a
but
loss,
but
but
when you put in your time, you're like, we spent 8 months on this. Like, there's no way. It'd be like a $3.5 million invoice. You know what I mean?
oh
Like,
my
there's
God,
no
yeah.
way.
You
Um,
would never, if you ever got the estimate, you'd be like, nope.
yeah, no way.
So you get through that third year, you are now on a rocket to the moon.
Yeah. So that third year, and then the fourth year, we got real serious with it. We were like, okay, I see what it can do, and we were starting to do our road show. So we had.
Really? That was that early? Okay.
Mhm. It took a long time, man. People like to, it's like the overnight success, right? Like we had been running a website called Unmatched Style
Oh
um,
yeah.
for a couple of years before the events, we'd started
You
it.
featured Engine on it
Yeah, yeah.
when we did our slanted header.
Mhm, mhm.
I remember that. It was
Yeah,
a
it was
big deal
cool.
for us.
Yep.
I
So we
really
were
thought,
that's
yeah.
what the site was about. It was about finding those unique things and talking about them and bringing it to light. And then the events kind of fed into that love of the industry and love of the work. And so we realized like we can pull all this together and really try to, from the early experiences with things like Zoe and like we had Samantha Warren there and stuff talking about stuff that shaped the
Yeah.
industry to watching the next couple of years and having people in that were like I mean, like cornerstones in the industry in terms of the projects they're doing and the way they're shaping how people work. I'm like, we can actually like affect, we're small, but we can really affect how people look at our industry, how they work in our industry, how we share information. We can help make that happen. And that was really energizing. So that fourth year, we were like, okay, let's get serious with this and let's see what we can do. We put a lot of effort into just getting
Hmm.
it together and stuff. And we sold that event out in 30 minutes.
I'll never forget that. I,
It
I
was like, boom, it
remember.
was gone.
I think you and I were talking. I don't think we had
Mhm.
started BizCraft yet, but you and I were talking, and you had said it, and you were just like, "We're sold out," and I was like, "What does that mean?"
It was
And
gone.
like, and how many tickets were there?
That would have been about 400 seats. So
Yeah,
so not a lot.
crazy.
I mean, not a lot from like,
Oh no, in our world, that was
it was a lot at that time.
everything. Now, is that the one where you had multiple venues?
That was the last year where we
That was the
were
last
only
year. So
in
you,
that one space. So we were limited by the amount. We had people they were like standing in these little
yeah, fire
crevices and stuff.
marshal would not have been
No,
happy.
no, 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 no. We've definitely had more people than we should have.
So I got to ask this question though. So you go through, you sell 400 tickets in 30 minutes.
Mhm.
What does that money feel like? Because you've
Feels
got to spend it on a
huge.
lot of stuff. But
Yeah.
like how much money was that? Because your tickets were what, like 200, $300?
Like 250, 200. I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't a ton of money. I mean, for us at the time, it felt huge.
It feels
Um,
huge.
mhm. And so, yeah, we were like, well, that's our budget, that's no sponsors. That's just,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
we can do. And so we put it back in. We got nicer shirts.
Yeah.
We got more
Well,
stickers. We got better food,
I think you
like
might have said this to me. I'm not sure, but I think it was break even on the tickets, make money on the sponsorships.
that's what it
That was
became
like a
later. Yeah.
thing. Yeah, that was pretty heavy. So you kick it off. Now you feel like you've got something you can lean on
Mhm.
with this money. You know you've got an energetic crowd. Did you ever think, should we try to find a different space? Maybe
Yes.
we could open this up. What was
Yes.
that
So
like?
it was awesome. So so planning for the next year, we were like, okay, this is bigger than us in terms of like not fucking this up. So we hired a company to help us manage the
I
operations
remember that.
of the people during the day because that was overwhelming. And I was like, okay, if we're gonna double this, it's gonna be 1,000 people. Like
Customer service.
I don't know how we need some professionals so that we don't no one gets in trouble and all this shit.
They had a
So
tree in their name. I can't remember it, but it's some sort of.
Um, at the same time, the word had kind of gotten around that it was a cool event, in the city of Columbia, and
The city stood up and was kind of offering you the keys
yeah,
to the city, right?
yeah, they were like, let's, what are you thinking? So we were like, well, I'd like to take it on Main Street because there's a few venues, and I would like to spread it across the whole downtown. And around the same time, they finally, like Columbia, brought back a farmers market that hadn't been there in like 50 years or
I remember
something.
that. Yeah.
And we were like, okay, so let's go big. Let's go big or go home. And we spread it around Columbia, and it just exploded. And we sold that one out just in a day or two.
And that was 500
It was
tickets
yeah, it
or
was about
650?
800 people
800. Oh
around
my
there.
goodness. Now, did your ticket price go up or you kept it the
Mm,
same?
Same,
Yeah, kept it the
same.
same. And
Yeah,
that was multiple venues. I remember walking around, like
yeah.
looking at
Up and down Main
everything,
Street. Yeah,
and I was just blown away.
yeah,
Like I was like, "Oh my, what?" And
yeah. We
I
got
saw
the
you at one point, and those listening, I'll try to explain this, but I saw you at one point, and you just kind of went,
mm,
you just had this look on your face like, I don't know what's
yeah.
happening. But you did, but you and I'm sure inside at some point you were stressed out, but you always had this outward demeanor of whatever. You just let it all roll. And it was like it was soothing as a speaker and
I
a
hope so.
friend to
I hope
see
so.
that you were okay.
I hope
Like
so.
I've told Brett this a lot of times, and he's told me this a lot of times when we're out there, and I think it stems from you. everybody's going to feed off your energy.
Hmm.
So if you're kind of wigging out, they're going to wig out.
Hmm.
If you're kind of like whatever, they're going to be whatever. And if you're super energetic and positive, they're going to feed off that as well. So I think you really showed me that.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like the duck metaphor, where the duck's all cool on top, but underneath it's like,
Yep.
it's the same
Paddling
shit.
like
But
crazy.
yeah,
So you get through, you have this huge opportunity. You also did like a startup, like a quick pitch kind of thing
yeah,
that you
yeah, yeah.
did for startups. Like
Hmm.
this thing's really expanding out.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'll tell you, all that kind of stuff was really, it was from the pressure of other people. You
yeah, they
know,
were kind of taking your event and saying,
well, it's like it became, my vision was to make it part of the city. I wanted to help the city. I wanted to do something cool. It wasn't about building a business for myself. And so when you start to open that up, people put their own pressures on it, and they bring their own biases and things they want to do, and you have to learn how to navigate that, because it can take you over and make your event a pile of shit,
and then,
real
and if
fast.
you don't like the event you're putting on,
Yeah, you're
that's
gonna.
the energy people are going to feel
That's right,
too.
and you talk about that demeanor that you give. If you're walking around like fuck this place, everybody else is gonna feel that
Yeah.
too. Um,
Yeah.
so we did that sort of spread out for a couple of years,
Really? I only
on Main
remember it the
Street.
1 year. Okay.
Yeah, we did it, I think, 3 years. The first one was smaller, then it was bigger, and then the one, we started getting this, and even Chris Coyer was, like, on stage,
Yeah.
was like, "Let's make this the South by of the Southeast,"
Well,
or
now
whatever.
that I remember that year where he said that my talk is just going to be about how we don't need South by anymore
Yeah.
because we have Converge. Now I do have I got a question for you. What year was the laser light show?
That was that
Because
year.
that was the same. That was a year that Coyer said we don't need.
Yes.
See that laser light show. I remember sitting there. We're inside. There's this laser light show, and I just remember in my head, I'm going, "What's
What the
happening?
fuck?
What is happening?
Well,
They're having a laser light show."
that's a good lesson in trying things. They don't Things you try don't always work out,
Yeah.
but you have to be willing to just push the when it
Why not?
don't be so serious about everything, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, the chicken, it was called Chicken Head was the guy's name, I don't know, it's some weirdo. And, he got this laser light show. It took him, like, 2 days to set it up. Like, we get everybody, it was like 1,000 fucking people in that room. Standing
Oh
room
my
only.
god.
It was
I don't.
huge. Daniel Burka's there. He's just started working at
Oh,
Google,
Google.
like Google Imagination Factory or whatever the hell he was, and we're like, he's gonna talk about fucking spaceships or whatever, laser lights, and they blew the speakers.
Yeah.
So it was like,
Well, I remember Burka that year
there's
talked
no
about
sound.
the importance about being a generalist. That
Yeah,
was his whole
yeah,
thing. You have to be
yeah,
a generalist.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I remember that year, and I
That
was
was
just like,
that was our Game of Thrones year. We had houses
"What's
for each track.
happening?" Oh my god, there you go. So was that the biggest it ever got? Was like a
Yes,
thousand
yeah,
people?
that was the biggest it ever got.
Now
Um,
the following year, was it a conscious decision to get smaller, or did it just happen?
It just happened. It was really weird. I don't really know. So we moved it there in Columbia. There's Main Street, and then there's another area that's a little bit hipper and trendier called the Vista, and
Okay,
a new venue had opened, called Music Farm. It was like a rock club. It was very
right.
cool, and we were like, let's. I mean, it's been here for 3 years. It's the same city, but let's just try something a little bit different.
Yeah,
We put it over there, and it wasn't like 1,000 people, but it was 800 people. So I don't know. It's kind of the
yeah.
same. I don't know if it was smaller technically,
Now did
but
it sell out still, or
yeah, we sold it out. We still
still
sold it
sold
out.
out? Okay,
Mhm.
got it, got it.
Um, Now I will say the last 2 years were sold out because we limited it. We cut it off at
Yeah,
900 people or whatever plus workshop. You're gonna have
yeah,
people you give shit to and they bring friends or whatever. But so we specifically cut it off because I didn't want to just keep selling tickets forever. I wanted it to have that exclusive feel,
yeah,
to the point of like you need to work to get here. Sort of a vibe. So we did it in there, and that's when we wanted to So a year before, we were like, let's do some different shit. So we got like a Navy SEAL to come talk to people, and
That was amazing.
then the next year we got Thunder Levin, the guy who did Sharknado, and you did an interview with him.
Interviewed Thunder, and we're still friends. We
It's
still
very
talk like
cool.
every couple of months or
Yeah,
so. We'll get,
yeah,
we don't. I mean, yeah, he's funny as hell.
yeah. And you can get into you can deep dive into the reasons why we did shit like
So
that.
So you did that. I mean, you almost had LeVar Burton right before Reading Rainbow got picked back up. You had him scheduled. I remember
We
I told
had
like 100 people.
I put a deposit. I put a deposit down with his what do you call them? His handlers or his
Yeah, his
agent or
agent.
whatever. It was
Yeah.
$1,000. Put a deposit down, and that all that did was he would look at it.
Okay.
That's all they would say.
But
Well,
you don't
he
get the
will
money
look
back.
at coming. Yeah, he will. This is to have him look at your proposal to come to your event. And apparently he was like, I like it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the word I got. I don't know. The guy could have been lying.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
But then like he was like, got other shit, can't do it. And I was like, fuck. You
yeah.
know,
So
that
you
would have
go
been cool.
through, I remember that year, the Laser Light year. Chris is on stage explaining what South by has and what we have. And he's kind of making this juxtaposition. He is making it so that we're all starting to understand what you and the team have created here.
Right.
And then, yeah, I remember the polka band. Wasn't there a polka band
Oh
one
yeah.
year
Oh yeah.
with food when you're eating? And there was all these little, but it was that kind of thing. It was like, what's going to happen? Like, there's going to be something funny. And when you talk to people about Converges, you don't talk about the year that so-and-so was there. You talk about the year that such and such happened.
Right.
Right.
The
That
year they
was
had the dinosaur, the year they
so
had the
magical.
polka band. Yeah.
Yeah. So then what? Like what happens that starts you going into that?
Mistakes.
I don't want to do this anymore. Like what was it?
Well, that's when, we're doing this stuff and we're traveling a lot. It's
You
putting a
did
huge
Converge Florida and Tallahassee.
yeah,
You
we
did,
didn't
yeah.
talk about that. We expanded. We did 3 other Converges. We did Washington, D.C., we did Richmond, we did Tallahassee, we did Jacksonville, we did somehow I'm thinking Orlando, but maybe not. We did Austin, like all these places, and we're just trying to bring the mission out,
You made it a
and
road show. Yeah.
made it a road show. And then I bought a Breaking Development conference.
You
I
bought a
bought
couple of things.
I
Yeah.
bought that. We took over Front End Design Conference. It was all the stuff that we created this thing that was bigger than us, and it just like. But the thing is it wasn't really bigger than us. Like I didn't get
Mhm.
that part right. Right. It was bigger than us, but it was still us doing it. It was still me, pushing it
Yeah.
and taking the hits with the family, and not being home and taking the risk, because as putting on an event is still a monetary risk.
Yeah.
And you're doing 8 a year. That's
Yeah.
a lot,
You're
so
never stopping. You're never stopping. And you're just one team.
mhm. And it just got overwhelming. It just got too much work. And we're also trying to produce this website at the same time that has a full content schedule. You and I were doing BizCraft, one of I think 4 or 5 other podcasts that we had going on. We had a couple of other ones that were getting,
But BizCraft was the only one that you liked.
That's right. It was the most important one.
Making sure. Just making sure.
So it just, I don't know, maybe a good word to say is like not sustainable,
Right. So basically just expanded really quickly,
Mhm.
started trying to do a bunch of different things. At what point when you're doing that, and I really appreciate what you said about taking the hits with the family, because I remember one year I was on stage 38 times.
Mhm.
And it was great for the company, like Engine was making money, all that kind of stuff. But family wise, I still
Right.
remember Kaylee, 12 years old. I walk in, Kaylee and my wife are kind of having a disagreement. And I remember looking at Kaylee and saying, you can't talk to your mom that way. And she looked at me and said, you weren't even here. You don't get to be part of this conversation.
Right.
At 12. And I'm just like, whoa, she's
You're
right.
like, you're right. I don't know. I don't have any words for that.
I remember I went out back and I just sat down and went, what am I doing? So for you get in the middle of all this stuff, you're stretched super thin. Your family is you're feeling that irritation.
Mhm.
I can only imagine you're also trying to run your shop because you got to make money while you're also trying to finance some of these things. And I remember you got upside down with BD because you were at the Peabody. No, you were at some big resort in Orlando,
Gaylord
the
Hotel
Gaylord
chains.
Palms, which, yeah,
Yeah.
if you open the door, they charge you a quarter.
Yep.
So when did you say enough?
2017.
Okay.
2017. Uh, we still had some commitments to finish up. You start planning events the year before. So I saw
Right.
those last few together. And, a lot of people will say like, hey, like, and I think you said it, like the past year, last Converge we did, maybe even the year before that or whatever, like, hey, they're not like they used to be and stuff. And it was like, I'm barely alive here, like, like you're lucky we're getting together, like I can't take the, because it's not about the fact that like I don't love the industry. I don't like these people. It's you just get creatively drained, after a
Yeah.
while. Like you're like, maybe this is all the ideas I have, and it's finding that spark that gets you up to create the thing. It's just like you only have so many times you go to the well, man, and you're doing it 8 times a year, 9 times a year. Like, wow, and the
Yeah.
team is like starting to try to make plans on how to reuse things and like let's make this
Right.
last and I'm like, nah, we can't do that. That's not what we do. We bring the thunder every time, and they're
Yeah.
like, bro, we're tired,
Yeah.
um, so
And
everybody felt it.
you're starting to see the same lineups. You're starting to see the same kind of like the road show just became rebranded events.
That's right.
And I'm not dogging you. It was a thing,
Well, you
you
live it.
know?
You know how
Yeah.
the ins and outs of this. um, and I would say that there was the only templates that we had to follow of people doing things like this, in my opinion. I mean, maybe there are, and I'm just full of myself, but are just big national businesses that do these events,
Yeah.
right? That have lots of funding and stuff. We were like mom and pop trying to pull this off, multiple cities, just 3 people, and then some volunteers. Um, like it's just not sustainable, Even
Yeah.
if somebody would have come in and put $1 million into it, it still wouldn't have been spiritually sustainable.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't have been. So that's where that went. We just did too much. And if I started up a co-work at the same fucking time,
Because why not?
why the fuck not?
Everybody
Um,
else is. I'll do it.
yeah, and we started up a code school.
Yeah.
We were the first Iron Yard franchisee, whatever. We started that up
Yeah.
too, and it was
And that
like,
was kind of that was your big move, right? That was
yeah,
kind of the okay. And I asked this from the bottom of my heart because I know for me, when I had to change things, I wanted the story to feel right.
hmm
I didn't want it to be Carl gave up on that.
hmm
I wanted it to be Carl shifted his focus to this.
hmm
So for you, was there something about Iron Yard that felt like it was a way out?
yeah. I like those people. I liked the team, and they were small like us, and they were scrappy, and
Mhm.
I'd known them for a long time, and Peter Barth, the CEO, was a early sponsor of Converge. He sponsored us
Yeah.
that first year we were in that very first non pirated space. He was one of the first on board, and he loved it. He loved us, and we loved him, and he wanted to support us, and it was a really good marriage in terms of people and time. Um, and I liked their mission. Their mission at the time was very similar. So
Yeah.
it felt good. It felt like a good way to sort of like keep doing this and not have to keep building websites for people, at the same
Yeah.
time to pay. It was just like this could work. We started the co-work and started the code school as part of all that. And like this, we don't know what it looks like, but for the next year or two, we're going to work on it and bring it together. And it could be really awesome. Um,
Yeah.
and that just didn't work out. I mean, they're not in
They
business
grew
anymore.
really fast.
They exploded. They got a bunch of
Yeah.
investment and they took off. And then before long, I'm like, I've had this vision, and then I'm not, not to be offensive, but like, I got some 24-year-old person that's like, we need to have a stand up every day at 8:30 in the morning or whatever. And I'm like, stand up about what? They're like, well, I want to hear everything you did yesterday. And I'm like, motherfucker, I'm planning events. Like, what do you want me to report to you? I need to give you to-dos, and that's my own ego talking, but I
No,
couldn't.
no.
I'm like, that's not how it works, bro.
You get to a point where somebody asks you to slow down to explain what you're doing, and you're like, I can't slow down. I'll fall
Yeah,
off the wheel.
yeah, and it just got like that, and it just didn't work, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I just want to say on behalf of everyone you impacted, the thousands of people who came through, those of us who were fortunate enough to get to speak. Thank you.
Oh,
I
thank you,
mean,
man.
you have no idea the energy that you put out into the world with those events, and to
That's awesome.
Gio and Jay and everybody else that you had that was involved. You made a difference, and you
Yeah.
made a really, really positive
Yeah,
impact. So
yeah.
thank you.
And they were equal parts of it too. So I appreciate you mentioning them.
Yeah, we can edit that out. It's fine.
I still love those guys, man. They're awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you, man. Thank you.
yeah. Well, Gene, are you happier on this side of it?
Oh, very much so.
I knew it. I knew it.
Made the right decisions. I wouldn't redo any of it.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
you ended up right where you're supposed to be.
On this podcast with you.
I know. That's all you do all day long is this podcast, and then you go home.
That's
All right, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we are going to bring
a
more of
little
these
long.
origin stories. I think this is just kind of the thing, right? It's and
Yeah.
I was mentioning this to Eugene. It's kind of the how I built this and behind the music and all that kind of stuff. But for us, so thanks for sharing and thanks for being open about it.
Man.